In the ruthless corridors of the Tang Dynasty, whispers could be sharper than blades and smiles often hid daggers. In this world of silken robes and blood-stained ambition, a newborn princess was found lifeless in her crib. The official account blamed the reigning Empress Wang, a childless woman desperate to keep her throne. But what if that account was itself a weapon? What if the true killer was not the empress, but the child's own mother, a concubine named Wu? This is the chilling, controversial, and endlessly debated tale of Wu Zetian, the only woman in Chinese history to rise from concubine to emperor. Her journey is a story of ruthless ambition, political genius, and scandal, one that still divides historians to this day. Was Wu Zetian a monster, willing to strangle her own child to destroy her enemies? Or was she a brilliant strategist forced to wield cruelty in a world designed to crush women? As we follow her story, from the palace nursery to the throne of China itself, you'll see how the truth is far more complex and far more shocking than legend suggests. Wu Zhao, later known as Wu Zetian, was born in 624 AD during what many call the golden age of Chinese civilization, the Tang Dynasty. It was an empire of immense wealth and cultural brilliance, bustling capitals filled with scholars, merchants, monks, and soldiers from as far as India and Persia. Poetry flourished, trade along the Silk Road boomed, and Tang China stood as the most advanced society on earth. Yet beneath this splendor lay a brutal reality. Power in the Tang court was a deadly game. The emperor was the son of heaven, absolute in theory, yet constantly vulnerable to scheming ministers, ambitious generals, and the hundreds of women locked within his harem. Wu was born into a wealthy family in Shanxi. Her father, Wu Shiyue, was a timber merchant who rose to become a minor official. Unlike most girls, Wu was not confined to embroidery and music lessons. Instead, her father encouraged her to study literature, history, and politics, a gift as rare as it was dangerous. As a child, she was said to be outspoken, quick-witted, and fearless. While other girls lowered their eyes in obedience, Wu met people's gaze directly. That confidence would make her both admired and despised throughout her life. At 14, Wu was summoned to the Forbidden City as a concubine of Emperor Taizong, the powerful second emperor of the Tang. But she was ranked a mere fifth-tier consort, essentially a servant among hundreds. Her duties were menial. Some say she even changed the emperor's bedsheets. For most women, this would have been the end of their story. A forgotten concubine buried alive within palace walls. But Wu was different. She studied the palace like a scholar studies a book. She memorized the rivalries, the betrayals, the alliances that rose and fell like tides. She saw how ministers bowed by day and plotted by night, how smiles hid knives, how survival depended not just on beauty, but on strategy. Emperor Taizong never made her a favorite, but someone else noticed her. His quiet, thoughtful son, Prince Liji. A secret spark passed between them. It was dangerous, even scandalous. But in that spark lay Wu's future. When Emperor Taizong died in 649, Wu's fragile position collapsed. Imperial law dictated that all childless concubines must retire to Buddhist convents, their heads shaved, their lives effectively erased. Wu, barely 25, was sent away. For most women, this exile was final, but Wu had planted seeds years earlier. Emperor Gaozong, the former Prince Liji, remembered her. He began visiting the convent. Soon, in a move that shocked the court, he brought Wu back as his own concubine. This was unprecedented. To take his father's concubine was taboo, almost incestuous by Confucian standards, but Gaozong didn't care. Neither did Wu. She had returned from living death, and she was determined never to fall again. Back at court, Wu quickly bore Gaozong children, while her rivals, Empress Wang and consort Xiao, grew desperate. Wang was childless. Xiao had children but lacked Gaozong's affection. Wu, with her sons and growing influence, became their greatest threat. In 654, Wu gave birth to a daughter. A few days later, the baby was found dead in her crib, strangled. Wu's grief was theatrical, overwhelming. She accused Empress Wang of jealousy and murder. The emperor believed her. Empress Wang and consort Xiao were disgraced, stripped of rank, and imprisoned. Wu was elevated to empress consort. Historians are divided on this moment. Confucian chroniclers, hostile to Wu, claim she killed her own daughter to frame Wang. Others argue the baby died of natural causes, or that Wang herself may have acted. We may never know. But what mattered was this: the infant's death cleared Wu's path. Her rivals were destroyed, and she now stood at the emperor's side, supreme in the palace. As empress, Wu wasted no time eliminating threats. Wang and Xiao eventually met grisly ends. Some accounts say Wu had their limbs hacked off before drowning them in wine. Whether exaggerated or true, the message was clear. Opposition meant annihilation. She then turned to the court itself. She built a web of spies and secret police. Anonymous denunciations, forced confessions, and executions created an atmosphere of fear. Dissent withered. In 660, Gaozong suffered a stroke. Blind and weak, he relied on Wu to govern. She stepped out from behind the curtain, reviewing documents, presiding over councils, making decisions. Officials began calling the couple the Two Saints. But in truth, Wu was the one ruling China. When Gaozong died in 683, Wu became Empress Dowager. She ruled through her sons, deposing one when he resisted, enthroning another as her puppet. But she wanted more. In 690, Wu declared herself Emperor of China, founding her own Zhou Dynasty. She took the sacred title Huangdi, reserved only for men. To legitimize her rule, she launched propaganda, commissioning works that praised women leaders, promoting herself as the Maitreya Buddha reborn, destined to bring peace. At the Longmen Grottos, a colossal Buddha statue was carved in her likeness, a divine face in stone. Wu Zetian had broken every tradition. She was now the first and only female emperor in Chinese history. Once secure on the throne, Wu proved that her ambition was matched by ability. She expanded the civil service exams, allowing men of talent, not just noble birth, to rise in government. She reduced taxes on peasants, distributed unused land, and supported agriculture. She improved infrastructure, expanded trade along the Silk Road, and fostered cultural brilliance. Under her rule, China prospered. Yet her reign was not gentle. Princes who opposed her were executed or exiled. Ministers who dared speak against her vanished into dungeons. Even her own sons were not safe if they defied her will. Wu ruled with both terror and competence, the iron fist and the open hand. In her 80s, Wu weakened. Courtiers and generals staged a coup in 705, forcing her to abdicate. The Tang Dynasty was restored. Wu retired quietly and died that same year. She was buried alongside Gaozong in the Qianling Mausoleum. Outside her tomb stands a massive stone stele. Gaozong's is covered in inscriptions praising his reign. Wu's is completely blank. Some say she ordered it so. Let my achievements and errors be judged by later generations. That blank stone became her final statement, an open question to history. Was she a ruthless murderer, a visionary ruler, or both? Wu Zetian's story remains one of the most dramatic in all of history. She was reviled by Confucian historians as a usurper, accused of killing her own child, her siblings, even her husband. Yet modern scholars acknowledge her brilliance, her reforms, and the prosperity she brought. Her life forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How much ambition is too much? Can cruelty be justified if it secures stability? And why do we judge a woman's ruthlessness more harshly than a man's? Wu Zetian's blank tombstone asks us to decide, and 1,300 years later, we are still debating her. History is filled with figures like Wu Zetian, ruthless, brilliant, and endlessly controversial. If you've been captivated by this story of power, betrayal, and ambition, then don't let this be the last time we meet. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into the darker, stranger corners of history. Leave a comment with your verdict. Was Wu Zetian a tyrant, a visionary, or both? Wu Zetian's reign ended more than 13 centuries ago, but her shadow still looms over history. She remains the only woman to sit on the dragon throne as emperor. Not empress, not dowager, but emperor. To some, she was a monster. To others, a genius who bent the world to her will. The truth lies somewhere in between, a truth carved not into stone, but into the blank stele outside her tomb. That wordless monument invites us, even today, to judge her for ourselves. And perhaps that is her final, greatest act of power, to make us remember her, not with certainty, but with debate.